ages 50 to 64 who have risky underlying health problems. The panel had voted against saying that people can get a booster if they are 18 to 64 and are healthcare workers or have another job that puts them at increased risk of being exposed. But Walensky disagreed and put that recommendation back in.
The government still hasn't taken up the question of boosters for those who got Moderna or Johnson & Johnson shots. A few days ago, there were
everybody, how you doing?
Haitian migrants at that makeshift border camp in Texas.
Now good to see you today. You know we're talking about Haiti. They are now, in spite of everything that's happened over the past few days,
Sunday. There will be 7
they are
more
ramping
flights
up
today. Some
the
migrants
deportations
have been
and
released
sending
in the
people
US
back to
with
Haiti,
notices
no
to
matter where
appear
they were
in
coming
court
from.
or
Many of
report
these
to
persons down
immigration
at the border
authorities. Thousands
were coming
across the
into
border
Latin
back into
America.
Mexico.
They've been away from
A
Haiti
gunman attacked
maybe
a
10
Kroger
years.
grocery store in the Memphis
10
suburb
years
of Collierville,
and
Tennessee, killing
since
one
the
person
earthquake 10
and
years
wounding
ago.
at least 12 others before he
So
was found
we're going to be
dead
talking
of
about that
apparent
today. A lot of people have a lot to say. A
self-inflicted
lot of
gunshot
folks have been
wound.
on the
Dickerson
border
is working as a
looking at
cashier.
conditions. And, you know, they're even preparing Guantanamo Bay to receive many of these people at the border. It's just absolutely awful. It's good to see you today. It's good to see you today, everybody. Good to be with you, Linda.
Environmental activists
Wow, are you all
rallying
still
around
having
the
fires
world
out
for
there,
stronger
Linda?
action to limit climate change today.
Hey,
This
Dave,
is
how you
AP
doing?
News.
And Dave, you had some of that smoke to the north in Canada.
There's an arrest warrant out for Gabby Petito's boyfriend.
And I
who's
am an
charged
asthmatic
with bank card
also,
fraud.
Linda, but oh boy.
Reverend Johnson.
Reverend Johnson, how you doing? Hey,
Boyfriend of
Renato,
Gabby
how are
Petito.
you?
As
Down there in
investigators
Brazil.
work to
You
learn
know I
what
know it.
caused the death
Can
of
you bring that down
22-year-old
just a
Gabby
bit?
Petito. A grand jury in Wyoming.
Thank you so much. It doesn't have to be down that far, but I want to hear Reverend Johnson. Reverend Johnson, how are you?
I am well. How are you, Santita?
It is good to hear your voice. You know what I want? I'm going to reach out to you a little bit later because I want to get some, I want to know your thoughts about some Negro spirituals.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking for some. I reached out to my choir master at Howard. Of course, he wants to give me a nice trove of them. Bless his heart, but I want to
The Dow
get
gained
some of
506
those.
points yesterday. The
I want to know
S&P was up
what you're
53. The
thinking,
Nasdaq up
your
155.
thoughts.
I'm Rita Foley.
So, but it's good hearing your voice
AP
today. Thank you for coming on last minute.
No problem.
Instead of like twice this week. No, she's like, oh, this girl's asking a lot of me. Thank you.
Amen.
But thank you so much. But we're talking about Haiti today. You know, Jonathan was at the border yesterday with Reverend Sharpton and Pastor Bryant and Reverend Freddie Haynes.
Downtown Chicago, northbound
And
Columbus remains closed.
and a lot of people were down. Well, not a lot. I mean, you know, they had people down there. And you know, now they're ramping up they're increasing the deportations, and they're even planning to send a lot of these people to Guantanamo Bay. Oh yeah, they have a military contractor, everybody. They're looking for private contractors. You know, this is how a lot of big businesses make their money off of government contracts. So they're looking for people who speak Creole, as the Haitians would say. So it's like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you're going to put them at Gitmo? It seems like it.
Eggland's best eggs, classic, cage-free, and organic. Give you and your
Our country.
Oh, it sure is, and it is ours, and we have to make this stuff right. How about that? You know,
Gotta make it.
gotta make it right.
Left.
I'm sorry?
We have a minute, like 10 seconds left.
Thank you, hon. Thank you.
Ordinary times, so why choose an ordinary egg? Only Eggland's
Oh, yeah.
best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Okay.
It sure looks to me like this was a naked attempt to end democracy in America. And if one of these neo-fascists gets into the White House in 2024, I don't even think it's a question if they'll try to repeat this. I think it's a given.
The Tom Hartman Radio Program, weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
I need tech that can make me as productive in my home office as I am at my office.
30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's have a great show. God bless us. God bless us. God bless us. All right. Good to be with you today, everybody. So everybody like and share. Please like and share. Like and share. Like and share D-Ray and Dawn and Jewel and
10
Francis.
seconds.
Jewel always shares. Renee, everybody like and share. Like and share. Please like and share.
5.
To WCPT 820, because facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Friday already. Thank goodness it's Friday, September 24th, 2021. I'm coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station and AM 950 radio station, Progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends page over here on Facebook. Santita Jackson and Friends meet up with Francis and Jewel and Joyce and Dave Dowling and Renato from Brazil. Dave is up there in Canada and Linda out there in West praying for her today because they are still dealing with these fires. And it impacts her breathing. Come on, send her some love today. Shirley Carter from beautiful Philadelphia. Robin Crawford, how you doing? Everybody sending you much love. D-Ray. And everybody else, like and share. Philip, Kim Holloway, like and share, like and share, like and share. We're going to be talking about Haiti today. Even with all of the controversy surrounding the treatment of the migrants at the border, now the Biden administration is going to increase very rapidly the deportations of these persons. What do you think? They're not going to even be allowed to receive asylum here. Wow, what's going on with that? I want to know what you think. And they're even going to be, they're looking to put people at Gitmo, at Guantanamo Bay, who speak Haitian Creole, or Creole, as they would say, who speak their language. So the rumors that we've been hearing about Haitians being sent to Guantanamo Bay, it seems like that's going to be true. So I want to know what your thoughts are about that. Call me or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Of course, you can text me at that number, thanks to GWC Injury Lawyers. Hey, Philip from High Spire, Pennsylvania. Mark, hey, how you doing? How you doing, everybody? 773-763-9278. I want to know what your thoughts are about this. I mean, really, Renee, you need to call in. You know you have a lot to say, and I know you do. You have your thoughts too, Mark. And so do you, Kim and Philip and everybody. Want you to weigh in. I know we've spent a lot of time looking at it on this show, but we've been looking at Gabby Petito, and we should be looking at that case. And Jelani Day, God rest his soul, it turns out that the body found in the river was that child, was that young man's body. He was only 25 years of age, had planned to become a doctor. And we don't know what happened. We certainly do want to know what happened. And we certainly need to find out why we didn't hear enough about this case. Sending all of our love to his family this morning. They are heartbroken. He had done so well, had done so much. Hope his life will be an inspiration to so many. Jelani Day. Everybody, let's get right to some of these headlines because we've got a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover today. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 78 degrees, partly cloudy, although it's in the upper 50s right now. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 64 degrees will be the high, and there will be rain. The stock market, well, they had a great day yesterday. The Dow closed up 506 points. The NASDAQ closed up 155 points, and the S&P 500 closed up 53 points. And in Major League Baseball, the Twins were triumphant over the Blue Jays, 7-2. And guess what? The White Sox clinched their division. Yes, in Cleveland. All right, and Cubs will be playing the Cards today. Oh, it seems that the White House is divided now about how to handle the Haitian migrant crisis at the southern border. It has exposed deep divides in the Biden administration over how to best address this complex problem. How do you think it should be addressed? Call me, text me, 773. Grace Love, Yolanda, I want to know what you're thinking. How should this Haitian crisis, the migration crisis, the asylum crisis. How should that be resolved? Should they be sent to Gitmo? Well, guess what? People are trying to figure it out. The U.S. Special Envoy to Haiti, Daniel Foote, resigned yesterday, and he sent a scathing letter to the Biden administration saying he would not be associated with what he called the inhumane decision by the U.S. to deport thousands of Haitian refugees to a homeland in turmoil. They're either being sent back to Haiti, shockingly, many of them as they're landing, and now they're having trouble on the planes. Many of the Haitians have been attacking the staff on the planes because they said, this is not where we didn't sign up for this. We want to get to the United States of America. We are seeking asylum. And so we will see how this is all going to go. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has said that the administration isn't doing enough to stem the influx. What do you think, everybody? What do you think about what's going on at the border? We're talking about that today on the Santita Jackson Show. COVID-19 vaccine boosters can officially begin for certain groups of adults after the CDC approved the decision. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky, recommended boosters for people 65 and older, residents of long-term care facilities, and certain people with underlying medical conditions. So we will see how all of this works out, everybody. The Senate is set to vote on Monday on a motion to advance a temporary government funding bill that includes a suspension of the debt ceiling. If not, we could go into default, everybody. That would be a first, and that would not be a good thing, everybody. It turns out, guess what, everybody? Breaking news. President Biden won Arizona. A Republican commissioned review of nearly 2.1 million ballots cast last year in Arizona confirmed the accuracy of the official results and President Biden's win in Maricopa County, according to a draft report prepared by private contractors who conducted the recount. U.S. weekly jobs claims unexpectedly jumped to 351,000 as the labor market's recovery is now stumbling. So what about you? Do you have a job? Do you have a job? Have you gone back to your job? New Zealand is doing something interesting with vaccines. They are talking to KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell about offering people COVID-19 vaccines when they buy meals. Do fries go with that shake? Means something very, very different now. And now New York is racing to avoid hospital staff shortages ahead of vaccine mandate deadlines. It turns out that there are hospitals that are now beginning to shutter services. There's an upstate New York hospital that will not deliver babies because they don't have enough staff, because many nurses and medical professionals are resisting the mandate. So what do you think about that, everybody? In the meantime, the UN is convening world leaders in New York, and African leaders are condemning what they're calling vaccine apartheid as an indictment on humanity. Let us go to Pastor Vicki Johnson. We generally hear her on Wednesdays, but you know what? We're glad to have her today, giving us some good news, of course. She is the pastor of the St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 80th and Jeffrey. Have to continue to say this so that you get the time right, everybody. It's like 30 minutes of power. That's right, 11:45 to 12:15 at 80th and Jeffrey, 11:45 to 12:15. Please get there and go on and get blessed. Pastor Vicki Johnson, we need some good news today. How you doing?
I am doing well, Santita, and I am so glad to be able to do two in 1 week.
And I know, because to say Santita is like giving you making you just have a fit. She knows me as Sandy.
Yeah.
People who knew me as a little girl, many of them call me Sandy. My father calls me Sandy Boogie. It's all of that. But thank you for that.
You are very welcome. And yes, there is good news today. The
give it
first
to me.
good news is that your father was released from rehab and looks good and is doing good.
Thank
Probably
you.
doing a little too much, but that is good news. So in tribute to him today, in recent years, there has been a lot of talk about self-esteem. I felt I knew what it was, but I thought it best to do a little research on it. I found that self-esteem defined is used to describe a person's overall sense of self-worth or personal value. It assesses our appearance, beliefs, emotions, and behavior. Some say self-esteem is vital for survival and healthy development. It arises from within based on our beliefs and consciousness, our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Self-esteem can be impacted by positive and negative assessments made by parents or other caregivers. A great esteem builder is the I am somebody chant that was started by the Reverend Jesse Jackson over 50 years ago. He wanted to positively impress people that were coming through the civil rights movement who had to fight and fight for equal rights, that we deserved it. We deserve the right to vote, the right to live where we chose, the right to sit in any seat on the bus, the right to drink from any water fountain whenever thirsty, the right to employment and to receive fair wages, the right to fresh meats and vegetables, the right to not only play on a team, but to coach a team, professional teams, and to even own a team. The right to quality education at any institution, and now the right for our Haitian sisters and brothers to be treated like people and not like criminals. I am somebody. Being damaged by racial discrimination had a negative impact on self-esteem. Reverend Jackson's chant came to awaken some and reassure others that despite what the past experiences have been, you can't let them dictate the future. I am somebody. In James, the 2nd chapter, he talks about being a respecter of persons. Now that some of us really believe and know that we are somebody, we treat others like they are nobody. James says that we have sinned. Some of us are the very ones that were told to stand over here or sit over there. Some of us were told to get to the back of the line. Some of us have experienced the mistreatment of the wealthy who seem not to care about us, but only about themselves. We cannot be like them. We must be like Christ. We must be fair in our treatment of others. We must seek justice. Whether we are children or adults, we must treat others the way that the Golden Rule says, and that is to treat others the way that we want to be treated. Treat others like they are somebody. If we start treating each other better, maybe folk will start acting better. So no matter what your experience in life or what anyone else is telling you, I want to build up your self-esteem today, and I want you to make it your charge today to build up the self-esteem of someone else. Say I am somebody and tell someone else you are somebody. If you will do this, and I believe that you will, then to me, that's good news.
Amen. I am somebody. I may be poor.
I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am
somebody. Amen to that.
Yes.
Boy, that means so much to me now, more than I can even say. You know, you just as a child, you're just saying it. But wow, it is so true. And Dr. King talked about before Reverend Jackson came up with the litany, the importance of somebodyness. Remember, he did say that riots are the language of the unheard, and or riots are the language of the unheard, as there were riots all around the nation 50, 60 years ago. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing the Haitians begin to attack the staff on the planes, because this is the land of the free and the home of the brave. You're supposed to be able to seek and receive asylum here when the circumstances in your country are just too awful for you to withstand. And so I want to thank you for connecting that to what we're going to be talking about today. But of course, you come out of Operation Breadbasket and the movement and push
That's
and Rainbow
right.
Push, so can't help but
Right.
see things
Well
that way.
trained. Yes, well
Everybody.
trained and experienced.
Oh my
Amen.
goodness, how about that? Oh my goodness, Pastor Vicki Johnson, everybody. That's the St. Thomas Lutheran Church here in Chicago on 80th and Jeffrey. So glad that one of our morning stars made it out there. Hope you all will make it out there. She has a socially distanced and safe service. It's from 11:45 to 12:15 every Sunday. Please get on over there so that you can be blessed. Love you so much, Reverend Vicki Johnson.
I love you, Santita.
I know it's hard for you, but it's all right. Thank you so much. We got Dr. Deborah Holden here. And we are looking at, everybody's got questions, Dr. Deb, about these boosters. And now you're seeing in New Zealand, the government is talking to KFC, these American brands, Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, about offering people COVID-19 vaccines when they buy the meals. Well, how does that work well with the grease? But I don't know. What about the boosters? I know I ask you this all the time, but people keep asking me if they should get them or not. Because they continue to expand who is going to get them. And I'm wondering, is it safest to give it to the most vulnerable? I mean, to our elders, and where are we with the boosters? What would you advise us to do, Dr. Deb?
Well, good morning.
And good morning.
We're going to have to really stay on top of this one because it's changing constantly.
Every day.
And it's changing every day, and we're getting different messages from different places. So I'm going to do my best to distill it down and help it make sense for people. So the new word is that the CDC director has now come out, and the CDC has its own advisory panel. And they basically endorsed what the FDA said. And they've added an additional group, which is frontline workers who are at high risk. And so everything remains the same. 65 and older, immunocompromised, frontline workers who are at risk, high risk for contracting COVID. And the reason they're doing that is because they're saying if immunity wanes, the people who are most at risk, we want that extra, dose of protection. What people need to understand is this is only for people who got the Pfizer vaccine. If you got Moderna or if you got J&J, the boosters have not yet been approved. They're still reviewing that data. So this is only for people who got the Pfizer vaccine. You got Moderna, you got J&J. We're still in a holding pattern for a couple more weeks to see what the actual recommendation is. There is some data available, but that data has not been fully reviewed and vetted. And I've been saying this to people. Please do not just go out and get yourself a booster. I just don't, I don't think that's a good idea. And I know, some others have said, just trust your gut, go with your intuition. Wholeheartedly, I disagree with that. Do not do that. Do not do that. Let's rely and let's actually, the leaders said it, but they're not doing it. Mm-hmm. Let's actually follow the science.
Well, Dr. Devlin,
you can't follow. You ever been with somebody and you didn't know who was leading? And they were supposed to be leading, but you were out in front of them.
Where we are.
You can't follow from the front.
This is kind of where we are. But that's why I want to ask you this, because when people started taking the vaccines, they were told it doesn't matter which brand you get, just get one. Okay. But they have not been brand specific. I mean, they have not told us to be brand specific with the boosters. And I'm trying to, where do we go with that? I mean, how's that supposed to work? If you got the Pfizer, can you get, the J&J, even though that's a single dose? I mean, can you get the Moderna? I mean, how is this supposed to work? Is there a record of which one you took? Do you know? I mean, how is this supposed to work? I mean, are these just boosters?
Yeah.
Or what? I mean, what is it?
So that's a great question. So there is some, data that mixing and matching is okay, but that's not been approved yet. It's not been approved. So this booster is only for people who got the Pfizer, and they will be getting the Pfizer booster. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but just based on what I've seen so far, what is likely to happen in the future, is that people will be mixing and matching, and the mixing and matching will be, approved. That I think we're months and months from that happening. What is more likely is that people will be encouraged to stay brand specific for the next several months, and we'll see the approval of boosters for people who got Moderna and potentially for people who got J&J. So the interesting thing about these three vaccines, and it's not just the brand name, but remember, they came out at different times. The reason we're having a conversation about the boosters for Pfizer is because that was the first vaccine that came out.
Mm-hmm.
J&J was the latest, the last one to the scene, right? And so I think it's more relevant because, most people started getting their vaccines in December and January. And so we've now crossed that threshold, that 8-9 month point, past people's second dose, where the boosters become relevant. So there's still some work to be done. It's a short version. Right now, it looks like the recommendation is that people stick with the same brand that they got. But what's predictable is there will be some mixing and matching. Everybody should know. I have my vaccine card. It tells you the lot number and the batch number and the brand that you got. So everybody needs to keep up with their vaccine card.
Okay.
And I've heard a bunch of people say, I lost my card. What can I do, et cetera? Does somebody have a record of it? There is a record of your vaccination managed through the provider who provided it, and the state keeps record of every person who got vaccinated.
So I've got
and
about
their lot
30
number
seconds.
And their batch number.
I've got about 30
Yeah.
seconds. Where can people go get that information so they can find out?
If they've been vaccinated and don't have a vaccine card,
Mm-hmm.
you should contact your local health department, and they may have to direct you to the State Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay.
But contact your local health department. The provider first where you got it, local health department, and then your State Department of Health and Human Services.
Going forward, you're going to be hearing a lot more from Dr. Deb and I and people that she's going to be bringing to us about not only about these vaccines, but the whole protocol of vaccines that adults are supposed to take. I mean, this is a new one on me, everybody, a new one on me, but we're doing everything we can to make you as healthy and so that you can lead as healthful a life as possible. Dr. Deborah Furholt, an epidemiologist, Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State University, but she's kind of sort of on loan from Johns Hopkins because that's how they roll it. That way she's building their School of Public Health at their medical school. We just love Dr. Deb talking about Haiti. Stay right there, Dr. Deb, because I think now they're doing some COVID-19 testing at the border. Want to get your thoughts on that on the other side of the break on the Santita Jackson Show. What about Haiti? What should we do about these asylum seekers? Back in just a minute. Dr. Deb, I'm not going to keep you long, but I have some other people who are going to be coming on because we're looking at Haiti today. They're increasing the deportations now. And they're looking for private contractors to take over Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, the Guantanamo base at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. And they're looking for people who speak Haitian Creole. So it appears they're going to be sending many of these migrants and asylum seekers to Cuba, to that prison. Unbelievable.
That's so terrible.
Well, if we don't keep the story alive, it won't live, right? We're the one, which is why I've been on it, and we have been on, our health. Thank you so much. You've been such a blessing to us. Yes.
Fit you into a term life. Remember,
I said this is too rich. Thank you. Oh, loved it. Oh, you looked absolutely gorgeous, and you were in heaven. Fabulous nails, girl. My nails are gone.
Oh, yeah. I've decided I have to keep those up during COVID. I can't let myself. I don't know why when my nails feel better.
You know, I love them, but you know what? I was using the gel. Can you bring that down, Kuzme? I was using the gel, and that destroyed my nails. So they're having to come back, but I'm having to like constantly cut them down. It's like driving me nuts because I've got to go to a wedding in a few weeks, and girl, I'm just gonna have to break on down and do something because I can't walk around with stubs and nubs. Dwight, are you there? Attorney Sanat?
They're both on the line.
Okay.
Good morning.
Attorney Sanat, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Wonderful hearing your
Hi,
voice.
Dr. Deb.
Oh.
Hey, good morning.
And we've got Dwight McKee there. We're going to be taking the lead on this, Attorney Sanat, and I'm going to keep you to the top of the hour because I'm bringing people, I'm cycling a lot of people on to talk about this. My brother was at the border yesterday with Reverend Sharpton.
I heard. I talked to your dad yesterday.
Oh, you did? Okay. And he was there with.
There's supposed to be a press conference today.
Are you going to go to that?
Of course.
Okay, very good. Okay, good. And the event on Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
We have a minute 30.
The rally is going to be on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. in Federal Plaza.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Hi, Dwight. I'm trying to just get all this straight. So, one moment. And I want you to make that announcement. You can talk about both press conferences. You can just announce them before we get into that because people want to know how they can be.
Press conferences.
Well, you know what? The people want to know how they can be supportive.
Yes, the City Council, the Black Caucus, they're also meeting at 8:30 this morning.
Okay. So just let me know how we can be. You got to announce it.
You were on top of it. You were putting it in the forefront of the minds of people, and I appreciate everything that you've been doing to help us spread the message.
Oh, girl, please, we're one. What's that? I'm doing my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. No, I mean, bless your heart.
Seconds.
But there's no way I can watch them whipping us on. Well, first of all, even if they hadn't whipped us, you're not going to let us in? Are you kidding me? That's not working for me. Well, my grandmother was a migrant worker throughout the Caribbean and South and Central America, and as a child, and through her youth. And so when I see those people, I think of her. Although she was born on the American side, that's where she lived. That's how she lived. Chopping sugar cane and picking beans. My grandma Gertrude. God rest her soul.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Friday, September 24th, 2021. I am Santita Jackson coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want to thank the management of this station in a special way for giving me the space to talk about these issues. In fact, I'm very, very grateful because we're not hearing enough about this crisis that we have at our board, this humanitarian crisis, this crisis that has forced high-ranking administration official to resign. He said he cannot be a part of this inhumane treatment of these human beings. I want to know what you're thinking, everybody. We have got a whole lot of people we're going to be talking to today about this Haitian crisis. And even as they are in crisis, according to this Voice of America communique, the U.S. is ramping up Haitian deportation flights while they're letting other migrants stay. The story begins this way. The U.S. ramped up its Haitian migrant deportation flights from the state of Texas back to Haiti on Wednesday, even as thousands of other Haitians were being allowed into the U.S. on the promise to appear at an immigration office within days. And this is also as they're letting other migrants stay. So what do you think about that, everybody? I want to know your thoughts. Even as President Biden is set to admit even fewer refugees than President Trump's record low. How about that? U.S. envoy to Haiti has resigned. Daniel Foote, he's blasting in a scathing letter, returning migrants to a collapsed state. He is calling the treatment of them inhumane. And we're seeing in Guantanamo Bay, attorney Anastasi Sanat, president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois. They are seeking, the Department of Homeland Security is seeking contractors to run the migrant detention facilities at Guantanamo Base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And they want guards, not workers, guards who speak Haitian Creole. Unbelievable. Attorney Anastasi Sanat, and
Good
of
morning,
course you're
good
joining.
morning.
Good
Thank you for
morning, good
having me.
morning. We've got Dr. Deborah Verholden who's staying with us because she's been concerned about the looming public health issues, personal health issues, and of course Dwight McKee who's looking at the politics of it all. Starting with you, Attorney Sanat, what do you see? There's a lot of activity, I know, all around the country, but in Chicago in particular, today, tomorrow, and Sunday.
I kind of laughed when I heard about the Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay. First of all, in order to have people that speak Haitian Creole, you would need people in the United States. And if you're kicking them out, how are you going to get people that are actually going to be willing to do those jobs as guards in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba? So
Not workers.
I just thought it was interesting.
They want guards.
Not workers. Right.
They want guards.
So I thought it was, I just thought it
So
was
if they
funny
want
when I
guards,
heard it.
are they going to be prisoners? Is that it?
No. What they're looking for is people in order to monitor people. So let's think about slavery, right? When you had master was gone, right? There would be that one person that was part of our skin that would be controlling the rest of the kin.
The overseer.
So that's basically what they're trying to do.
The
This is
overseer,
2021.
maybe.
The overseer, right? Yeah, when you think about the things that they're repeating in history in 2021, it's kind of disturbing, honestly. I probably shouldn't be laughing, but when I saw it, I laughed. Like, I can't believe you're repeating yourself.
It's a rueful laugh, everybody. This is not funny. This is just like, are you serious? Well,
are you kidding me?
Are you serious? I'm with you. I mean, but before we get into that, you're going to be at a press conference today, and there's something happening on Sunday?
Yes. So today there are two different press conferences. There's one with the City Council of Black Caucus at 8:30 in the morning, and then also Rainbow Push at 11 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to be at the one with Rainbow Push. There's going to be Patrick Brutus, who's the co-founder of the Haitian American Professionals Network, as well as Cindy Montez Newman, who is the founder of Daughters of Haiti, who's going to be at the City Council. And then the current president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois, Daphne Chameleon. And then me as the incoming president will be with Rainbow Push. So Sunday, what we've done, the Chicago Coalition of Haitian American Organizations, and we're going to be hosting a press conference and peace rally. We encourage everyone that does not have money, but has some time to come out and support us. It'll be at Federal Plaza, which is 230 South Dearborn, next to the Kalinsky building. It'll start at 2:30. If you do not want to drive and you want to take the Blue Line, CTA, go ahead and do that. Get off at Jackson Street and meet us there. We're hoping to increase the message to the people that what's happening to the Haitian migrants at the border is inhumane, and that as a community of Americans, we need to stop this. This is not something that we want to continue to see. This is not something that we want to continue to do to others. We would like Haitians to at least be treated like the Afghani refugees. So let's treat the Haitians like refugees. Let's welcome them into the community. In fact, if they have an opportunity to get to Chicago, let's welcome them to Chicago. Let's give them some food, shelter, and some comfort, knowing that there's political chaos and knowing that the natural disasters that have occurred in Haiti is not something that they need to go back to right now. Let's give them our open arms. Let's do what Lady Liberty has been called. Give me your tired, give me your poor, and bring them here.
What do you say about with this extraordinary week that we've just experienced? The administration is going forward and they are ramping up the deportations. They are looking for private contractors to man, if you will, Gitmo, Guantanamo base on Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. What do you make of that?
I mean, at the end of the day, this is kind of curious to me. Why would you remove people from the United States, which actually has plenty of opportunity for these individuals, and then bring them to another small country, Cuba, which does not have opportunity, detain them, put them in prison? These individuals haven't committed a crime. Why are you putting them in prison in order to make them further be traumatized? You've got trauma in their own country. You had a president that was assassinated. You had an earthquake in which many of them, as we've already identified, had left years after that first earthquake in 2010. So why would you re-traumatize these individuals with that kind of experience? I'm not sure why these decisions are being made. In fact, when I talked to you the other day, I had mentioned that DHS had issued a statement on July 26, 2021, indicating that they were no longer going to be using Title 42, that they were going to be using another law called expedited removal. And then the secretary issued a statement saying that he was doing something different. Then the press secretary from the White House, Jen Psaki, said they were still using Title 42. The misinformation that is going out to the American community is deplorable. I think it needs to stop, and I think as American people, what we need to do, other than showing up at the rally at 2:30 p.m. in Federal Plaza, what you need to do is contact your legislators. You need to contact House. You need to contact the Senate, and you need to let them know this is disgusting, deplorable. Stop it. We don't want it anymore.
And racist, because the Afghan people they're classified as white, yes?
Yes. So if you look at the U.S. Census Bureau, a lot of people are not familiar with how the United States classifies race. It's a social construct, right? This is not something that, we're all human beings at the end of the day, and this is a human rights issue that we're talking about. But when you look at the U.S. Census Bureau, so we just took our census in 2020, white people in America are considered those from Europe, right, European descent, those from the Middle East, and those from Northern Africa. So when you think about black people, you think, well, doesn't that include Egyptians? Doesn't that include Algeria and Morocco? Nope, they're considered white. So those are not considered black people. So when we think about what system is in place and what system needs to be dismantled, these are the systems of racism that need to be dismantled.
We're talking with attorney Anastasia Senat. She is the incoming president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois. Brilliant, brilliant lawyer. And of course, we've got Dr. Deborah Verholden on with us, epidemiologist, associate dean of public health at Michigan State University School of Medicine. Let me get to you, Dwight McKee, social scientist. This issue is currently dividing, according to the CNN report, the Biden administration. Many people are appalled in this, and yet President Biden is on track to really follow in President Trump's footsteps. He's going to admit even fewer refugees than President Trump's record low. What do you make of what's happening here? After this extraordinary week, the deportations of the Haitians are going up, even though, according to this Voice of America news report, my panel, other migrants are going to be able to stay, but they're getting the Haitians out. What do you make of this, Dwight McKee?
Well, actually, Trump has followed in Biden's footsteps. Biden has been for a long time. He is not dealing any differently with the Haitians as he dealt with the busing issue, where he was a chief opponent to blacks being brought into educational situations through busing. He resisted that. This Biden is being consistent with who he is, which is in many ways to the right of the Republicans when it comes to issues of race. Now, he says a lot of the right things, and he is very, very sympathetic. At least he carries himself that way. But when you look at his actual behavior and his actual record, in many ways, he's only been consistent with who he is. He really prefers white people and only sees America through the lens of white conservative eyes, no different than Trump. He is that way and has been that way all of his political life.
Where do you see all of this going, Dwight? Because now we're seeing the Haitian migrants attack the staff on planes. I mean, they're rebelling. They are rebelling. You're seeing the Haitian American community block traffic in Florida.
And that's the fear. That's the fear of Haiti. Haiti has always rebelled. It's a lot of this. I said the other day. It has to do with how they rebelled against Napoleon and ran the French out of Haiti. Haiti has historically been the main flow of capitalism and prosperity for France particularly, and a lot of Eastern Europe. What has happened in Western Europe, what has happened, Santita, is because Haiti would not allow themselves to be slaves, France forced them to pay a bounty, forced them to pay money back to them for the money they would have gotten had they remained slaves. So in many ways, they charged the Haitians for resisting being slaves and deciding not to be slaves. I think what we should be more concerned about, and what a lot of our focus should be, is to force France to give the Haitians back the money that they forced Haitians to pay for 150 years. From Tucson Overture to Jackie Robinson starting for the Dodgers and Joe Louis winning champion of the world, the Haitians have had to pay France for the right not to be slaves to the tune of billions and billions and billions of dollars. That's why the country is so poor. Is France has the prosperity of Haiti, and Haiti has inherited the poverty that has come from them having to pay France reparations for not being slaves. And so I think that the American way is to force France to repatriate, is to repay Haiti for all the wealth they've extracted out of Haiti, and then Haiti can then develop their own economy. And they can become secure, and the wealth they created can be self-contained.
Well, you know, it's interesting because the French are having fights there's tension with their former African colonies because they control their currencies, which means they hold the money in French banks and they tell you really how much you can get if you can get loans and all of that. That's happening right now. So this is an ongoing policy, Attorney Sanat. What do we do about the people?
Dwight has made that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What do you do about the people? What do you do about the people in Haiti? Unfortunately, they're being controlled by a lot of international communities. Dwight mentioned the history, and he explained how it is that the people have come to recognize Haiti as one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere. This is definitely an international situation in which people won't stop putting their hand in the cookie jar. Because, quite frankly, Haiti is a cookie jar full of a lot of resources and good things. Sugar plantations, coffee plantations. They have wonderful beaches. Everything about Haiti that you can think of, they have it. Unfortunately, it's unable to be marketed and advertised like we are able to advertise, for example, our sister country, Jamaica. You know, no one thinks about the fact that Jamaica is still under control by the Queen.
Absolutely.
They think of it as an independent country and they celebrate their independence, but in reality, they're still part of the Commonwealth. They still have the head of state as the Queen, and they still answer to her, and they still pay her to be Jamaica. So I think that what Dwight has mentioned is true. We definitely need reparations for Haiti, not only from France, but we need it from Spain, because they raped the country too, right? And I use that word because I want to
Well, because it's an
emphasize.
accurate description of what's happening, right?
Yes, I
Rape
want
is
to
taking
emphasize
from me
what
without my
happened
permission, right?
without my permission.
There you go.
Exactly. There you go. And so I want everyone to think about that. I mean, even the United States, we've been talking about how the United States is mistreating the people at the border, but the United States has done their fair share. In fact, Reverend Jesse Jackson wrote an article in the Chicago Sun-Times in which he reminded people that in 1914, for the next 20 years, the United States was raping Haiti too by occupying it. So the United States owes Haiti a lot of things, just like France, just like Spain. And I think that we all need to stop trying to get their hands in the cookie jar. Leave it alone. Let us build our own system of governance. Allow us to do what us wants to do.
Well, amen. And that's why you need to understand the politics of the Commonwealth, the politics of, I mean, even Meghan and Harry. I like them very much, and I hope that their marriage continues to flourish, and I hope they continue to be blessed. But the politics of the Commonwealth is this. When the Queen became Queen, they only had about 5 or 6 nations in the Commonwealth. Now they're up to 53. 95% of those are African and East and Southeast Asian. They're India. That's how they get their money. That's so when they're doing royal visits, they are surveying their land. So you need to understand what all of this is about and who the creditor and who the debtor is. The so-called global South.
And she doesn't necessarily visit any of these countries any longer. She sends other people in order to visit the country. She makes $92 million a year.
That's right.
Sitting and driving her car and riding horses.
Well, that's why they put Meghan and Harry. They put them over the Commonwealth. Remember that they were in charge of the Commonwealth.
But they've left their duties, so they're no longer part of those senior duties any longer. So
but I thought that was very interesting that they put them in charge of that, and that in her veil she had symbols of all 53 countries in there. I mean, I like them. This has nothing to do with like. I'm talking about do not have the countries of the global South, these colored countries, look like they owe the European countries, because that is not true. The fact is that Western wealth has been built on the backs on black and brown backs. And we need to be clear on that, and it needs to stop.
It does. I agree with you. I think that the main distinction is that when Meghan was coming into the firm, I don't think she understood exactly what was happening. Once she got into the firm and she saw from the inside and acquired the knowledge from the inside, she then realized that she needed to get out. And
she majored in international relations at Northwestern. I mean, I realize when you get
no
in.
one really understands all of those things.
Of course.
Even when we're being taught today in school. Kids are being taught today in school that the British and the colonialists were fighting for a good cause, and the colonialists won, and that's how we ended up with America. Liberty. The truth is, you raped the country from the indigenous people that were here already. So we're not teaching people the correct information to begin with. And
sure. So no, I wish her well.
The correct information.
I wish her well.
I wish her well, but I just think that when you really learn from the inside and you bring it out, totally different thing.
Sure, but I think that she knew much more. It's just I think you think that you can change things, but the thing is, the system is what it is. The system is what it is. Now, I mean, and they're over here living off the profits of the system. They are. I'm not mad at them. I'm just saying. Got you. You got that. But now people in England need the teeth fixed. Now more and more people in England not have.
Why would they teach? Why would they teach about the understanding of the Commonwealth? Because they would lose money.
That's right.
And that's what Prince William is afraid of, right? He's like, my father wasn't strong enough in order to keep things in control, right? So Prince Charles, he might end up being king. He might die before it happens. But Prince William, we're already thinking he's definitely going to be king. At the end of the day, no one's teaching about what it really means to be part of the Commonwealth.
There you go.
What it really means to be is your modern day territory. Unfortunately, like Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, love the country, great country. But the reality is it's a modern day territory of the United States, just like Guam.
A colony. right?
No one's thinking about it. A colony, right? So we don't use the word colony anymore. We use the word territory.
Territory, but it's a colony.
Truth is, that's what it is. So Puerto Rico, everyone that's born in Puerto Rico, they're United States citizens. No one seems to recognize them as such, but they are, right? They're not forced to speak English because, in fact, the United States doesn't have an official language, right? So Puerto Ricans grow up speaking Spanish, they grow up with their culture, they grow up with everything, but at the end of the day, they still pay the United States for the benefits that they get. Remember in the advertising that I was talking about, you've taken that advertising of the United States and all these benefits, school, shelter, food, clothing, all of these great things will come to you if you just do this. But the side effect is it's still a modern day colony.
Absolutely. So, and that's where we are. And that's why I'm saying we have to be clear on all of these symbols and all of these persons that we see. We need to get some clarity about what's really going on here. I'm not anti anybody. I'm pro everybody. But as much as I love Diana, Princess of Wales, she was a monarchist. They asked her, do you want to end the system? She said, no. I just want it to be nicer. I want my sons to get in this. And Prince Harry's still a prince. I ain't mad. But, I'm like, this is a system. But as an American, I'm a Republican. That is to say, I do not embrace a monarchy. I embrace a republic. And I want to move toward democracy. And sending people back to a collapsed state that we helped to collapse, that's not the way. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. I've got 1 minute for you, Attorney Sanat, and thank you for taking us through this because I think that it helps. You've helped to make this. You helped to make this real for us, right? I mean, to help us to see what we're looking. Oh no, we have to understand what we're looking at. We have to, because I mean, these people are being chased out of their country. Yeah.
They're being chased out of their country. The international community has come in order to collapse our country. So for those that are listening and for those that want to support us, we have a lot of lawyers that are currently at the border right now in Texas. Haitians United, Haitian lawyers from Georgia are currently there. So if you really want to assist with our advocacy and our programs, please send us some money if you can. HALA.Illinois@gmail.com, PayPal or Zelle, or you can Cash App us HALA Illinois. Or if you don't have money and you just want to use your mouth, send messages to the legislators. Also, attend the Peace Rally, 2:30 p.m. on Sunday, September 26th at the Federal Plaza here in Chicago. Come and support us. Lift your voices if you can't lift a dime. We would appreciate it.
Because guess what? It is seeing tens of thousands, hundreds, and then tens of thousands and millions of people march through the streets that we've been able to move the needle. Be very clear. You can't cute your way into freedom. You must march your way into it, and you cannot stop. Dr. Deb, stay right there because I want you on the other side just to give us a snapshot of the public health crisis that could be looming if we don't get our arms around this. Sending you much love, Attorney Sanat. Oh, incoming president. She is fire, everybody. Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois. She is, on fire. Love it, love it, love it. Sending you much love, and you'll be at Rainbow Push today as they have this press conference to try and shine a light on this issue, the border crisis. What are we going to do about the Haitian people who are seeking asylum in the United States? They're being sent back to a collapsed state. That is not what they asked for. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Oh boy. It's just too much.
Windows down, Chris Bear, and
Attorney Sanat, I just love you to pieces.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'll be in touch with you later.
Yeah, just call me. Just call me.
Okay,
But I
no
think
problem.
thank you for breaking down the Commonwealth. This is something that Dwight talks about all the time. Because that we need to understand the
He
modern
was
day
doing a
politics.
great job of giving the Haitian history. I loved it. Thank you, Dwight.
Oh, look, that's why he's here. He gives us history all the time. But yeah, but
that's why we're the most hated is because of what he was saying. We're hated because we didn't want to be slaves, and we'd rather pay you than to be your slave.
and you threw these people out. I'm feeling you. But that's why I don't give. That's why I'm like, I don't know, you signed up for this. You know, I mean, I love Harry and Meghan, and I appreciate that, but I don't know how he went from wearing a Nazi uniform to being the wokest member of the family. That can happen. Okay,
Miss Jackson.
you know, that's not Oprah didn't ask that question. I mean, what?
She did not ask that
Girl,
question.
stop. Okay, I ain't mad at you, but I'm just saying, what? Okay.
I have to deal with some other issues, so I'm not going to go into England right now. I'm really trying to deal with the Texas border.
Let's stay with
Get
Haiti.
into England right now.
Okay, we'll stay right there.
We'll talk about England after we deal with Texas.
If you ever want to, no, we can have that. We can have that conversation because I'm up for it. Okay. Oh, I'm with it. Hey, Baba.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But yes. So thank you all for having me. I do have to get ready in order to go, but I appreciate you consistently bringing forth the progressive issues that need to be discussed. I appreciate you.
Oh, girl, look, you know you're part of the family now. She's crazy. I love it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
You too. Have a good one. I knew I had to catch her early.
Yes, you did. Okay. Thank you.
God bless. Deb? Hello? Is she
I'm
on
here.
mute?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Are you on mute? Now, I just at the top, I just need you to just very quickly help us to understand why this could, if you know, why this could be a public health crisis. You know, when we come back, but I've got a wonderful panel, got a lot of people still coming on because I have
Ms. Jackson,
decided.
I have attorney C.K. Hoffler on the line.
Okay, do we have Mr. Baraka?
No, I haven't got him yet. I had a question for you if he
Yes.
was a man or a woman, but you just answered that.
Yes, Mr. Baraka. Yeah, well,
Okay,
now
Mr.
that's good.
Baraka.
That's good for you to ask. How about
All right,
that?
yeah, no. So I have attorney Hoffler on the line. I'll get Mr. Baraka right now.
Okay. Attorney Hoffler?
Good morning.
CK's all
How are
over
you?
TV, MSNBC, Court TV, BNC. We've got Dr. Deb here and Dwight McKee.
Oh, good morning.
Hey, Nana.
There's a lot going. I feel like there's a lot of crazy going on in the world, Santita.
Girl, look, when I saw that they were ramping up the deportations, I'm like, are you serious?
It seems like when we complain, it's gotten worse.
Mr. Baraka's on the line.
Okay, Mr. Baraka.
Yes,
It's Santita Jackson. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. I've got attorney C.K. Hoffler. You know, she's the immediate past president of the National Bar Association and chair of Rainbow Push.
Morning.
Good morning.
He is our special guest here, and Dwight McKee, founding member of Rainbow Push and the National Action Network, so noted social scientist, and Dr. Deborah Holden, who is she is the Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State University. Sorry, I just saw some breaking news come up here. And and she comes out of Johns Hopkins.
Attorney Patello's on the line.
Oh, Attorney Patello, and his mom is from there. You know what? This is what I've got to do. Okay.
All right, Ms. Jackson, all guests are up for this next segment.
Fantastic.
I'm just.
Okay. Melvin Van Peebles passed on. Bless his heart.
Yes.
Didn't know that. Okay.
I think that was yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
That was.
Dr. Deb, I'm going to have you on just for a minute at the top. If you could just help us to address that, because I think we need to be concerned about that as well. We talked about our concerns for the health of everyone living, dwelling at the border, because they didn't even have porta potties at the beginning. So this was just a horrific situation, not of their making. So particularly when you see how they have settled the Afghan people on bases in the United States, and they should. We just want equal treatment for the Haitian asylum seekers because they too are seeking asylum. So everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Hey, Vanderlei down there in Brazil, 773-763. WCPT, and of course, CK's got her fan club here, Paula and Sandra and everybody else. All right.
We have 1 more minute.
Thank you. You know what, Paula? I put the eyeshadow on differently. Thank you. I put it on the corners. All right. Just so that you know. She said she loved my eyeshadow. Gotta share. How about that? So I started here, like in the corner, right? And then I came down like that. So just, it's an angle like that. Okay, everybody. So let's get out here. Okay, let's get right to it.
1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Deb. I'm going to bring you on. You'll be under 2 minutes, okay?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Okay, I can hear something in the background. I think someone's got the radio on. If you do, please turn it off. Thank you. Or television. So please turn that down.
Not me.
Okay, or move to a quiet area, please.
It's not me. It's not me either.
Okay.
But I hear it.
Okay. Very good.
15
Thank you.
seconds.
All right, coming up. I can still hear it. So please move to a quiet area. Thank you.
Is Robert on?
Maybe.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Welcome, everybody, to the Santita Jackson Show. Happy Friday, everybody. September 24th, 2021. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT 820 here in Chicago, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want to hear your voices today. Tell us what you're thinking about the crisis at the border, the asylum seekers from Haiti who are seeking to be free and have liberty in the United States of America, but they're being sent to Gitmo. That's right, Guantanamo Base in Guantanamo Bay, the military prison that we have been trying to close. The American government, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, is now looking for private contractors who would run that base, and they're looking for guards who can speak Haitian Creole. Are they now prisoners? Going to talk about that on the Santita Jackson Show. Let's get a few of these headlines out of the way. I want you to meet my Morning Stars, the Santita Jackson Morning Stars, on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, everybody, and also on my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show. Like and subscribe there, and meet everybody over here. We're having stirring conversations. Chicago, we will have a high of 78 degrees, partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, a high of 64 degrees. Rain. Stock market, they had a good time yesterday. The Dow closed up 506 points. The NASDAQ closed up 155 points, and the S&P 500 closed up 53 points. The Twins were triumphant over the Blue Jays, 7-2. The Cubs will be facing off against the Cardinals today. And guess what? The White Sox clinched their division last night as they faced off against Cleveland, everybody. COVID-19 vaccine boosters can officially begin for certain groups of adults after the CDC approved the decision. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky recommended boosters for people 65 and older, residents of long-term care facilities, certain people with underlying medical conditions, and people ages 18 to 64 who are at increased risk of COVID because of their workplaces or institutional settings. The Senate is set to vote Monday on a motion to advance a temporary government funding bill that includes a suspension of the debt ceiling. And sadly, they found the body of Jelani Day. It was identified yesterday. We were just talking about this young man, the graduate student at Illinois State University. Such a promising future. Young man. We've been looking for him for weeks. Sadly, he has been found dead in the river. And God bless him and his family, everybody. Dedicating the show today to three giants in their own way. Melvin Van Peebles, godfather of black cinema. Sweetback's badass song, and so much work that he has done down through the years. We just thank God for him breaking the doors open for playwrights and for directors. So much of what we see, the opportunities that we have in Hollywood, created by Melvin Van Peebles. God bless your soul. Everyone loves LaBelle, one of the founding members, Sarah Dash, a brilliant singer, also one of the top session vocalists in the music industry, made her transition just a few days ago. She was also a dear friend, sending her much love. George Holiday. George Holiday, of course, you know Rodney King, and you know that that was taped by someone who was in their apartment and who was appalled by what they saw. He was just trying out his camera. Well, that was George Holiday. George Holiday. And he died of COVID-19, complications from COVID-19. God rest his soul. Some giants made their transitions, but we thank God that they came this way. Everybody, let's talk now about what's happening on the border. What's happening not just on the border, but what's happening in Guantanamo base, because it appears that they're going to be sending the Haitian immigrant, those who are ambitious to immigrate here. They're being sent away. What's going on, everybody? Got a tremendous panel who are going to be talking about this with us. In fact, I'm leading this panel. It's for policy studies. Brilliant director, national director of the Black Alliance for Peace, Ajamu Baraka. I'm so glad that you're with us. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, former national president, past immediate national president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest Black bar association in the world, and she's chair of Rainbow Push, as well. Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push, and he hosts his own show on WAOK Atlanta from 1 to 4 on Sunday. And of course, Attorney C.K. Hoffler does that as well every Tuesday at 11 Eastern Standard Time. And she also has her own segment on this show, a legal Q&A with C.K. every Wednesday. And then, of course, we got Dr. D, Dwight McKee, who's still with us. And before we get to you, Mr. Baraka, let me go to Dr. Deborah Holden, brilliant epidemiologist. One of the concerns that you had has been in this pandemic, just the state of the health of people who've not had porta potties, who've not had access to water, food. We don't know if they've got COVID. We don't know if they have other ailments that need to be treated. What do you say about the situation at the border, Dr. Deborah Holden, as an epidemiologist?
It's inhumane. It's inhumane, and we should not be okay with anybody on our soil living in these conditions. It's just inhumane, and it's disgusting. The temperatures are terrible. You know, people really can't appreciate the tremendous journey that people had to even get to this place. You know, people are traveling very light. Most people don't have very basic necessities that one would need, right? And so then they make it to this camp. It's inhumane conditions. There's, no bathroom. There's no food available, so people are having to go back and forth across the border to get food. People are sleeping on the ground. They're sleeping in the dirt. They endured whatever they had to endure to even get there. Women are pregnant. Babies are being born. There are children in this place. I mean, it's just, we should not allow this. And the notion that we can just round people up and just fly them back and drop them back in Haiti, and that, absolves us and, not our problem anymore. It's just wrong. It's wrong. This is going to be a real health crisis, not just for those people, but for that community. And something needs to be done. People should literally be up in arms about this.
Well, I tell you what, the Biden administration appears to be up in arms about this. I want to thank you, Dr. Depp, because I know she's building a school of public health at the School of Medicine, but she wanted to stay on to weigh in on this because indeed she is fighting for equity in the public health space. And we are so grateful that she is with us every single day, fighting for equity, vaccines, therapeutics, helping us to understand the other things that can ail us. And she is fighting for our health every day. And we love you and respect you, admire you, and so glad that you're with us every day, Dr. Deborah Holden. Sending you much love. But most importantly, she's India's grandmother. So there we go. How about that? That's it.
Then there's that. Yeah.
No, there's only that. How about that? Let me welcome to the show the National Organizer for the Black Alliance for Peace, Ajamu Baraka. brilliant policy mind. I mean, you really do understand the international space, and I need your help on this one. How would you brand this policy? Because with all of the focus, well, not enough focus, but we've had a lot of focus on what's happening at the border this past week. The Biden administration is we're looking at possibly sending them to Gitmo, to Guantanamo base on Guantanamo Bay, the military prison. We're looking at them just being sent back to Haiti, even though they didn't come from Haiti. Many they came through Latin America. How do you help us to make sense of this, Ajamu Baraka? Oh, Mr. Baraka? Mr. Baraka, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. Yes.
It's all right.
Sorry about that.
No, it's the mute.
I didn't want to have any sound here.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Your question is very important. The way we frame the Biden policy, we said it quite clearly that it is both illegal and immoral. Illegal because individuals have a international law right to apply for asylum. It is not proper for a state to just arbitrarily deny that right and to confine people and then ship them back to the very same environment that they claim is a threat to their personal security. Immoral because you have a situation that's been created as a consequence of U.S. policies vis-a-vis Haiti. And if you have policies that have created the crisis, but then you attempt to completely wash your hands of any responsibility, and your policies have created untold sufferings, then that I think that defines what immorality and foreign policy really is.
773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. We're talking about Haiti today. Ajamu Baraka, national organizer for the Black Alliance for Peace. Where do we go from here? Is there anything we can do to stop this? I mean, they're looking, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, Mr. Baraka, they are looking for people who speak Haitian Creole so that they can send them to Gitmo. Are you surprised by this? I mean, are they about to become prisoners?
Well, I'm not really surprised that the Biden administration has looked into that possibility. I really believe that they were going to see that as a viable option until they got called out. Now they claim that they're not going to send anyone to Guantanamo Bay. But, it's important for people to be reminded that the original inhabitants of Guantanamo were, in fact, Haitians back in the 1990s when the U.S. went into Haiti and undermined the first democratically elected president, President Aristide, and people felt compelled to flee. The U.S. was picking people up on the high seas and taking them to Guantanamo. So there's a long history of that relationship between Haitians and Guantanamo. How do we stop this? We have to look at what is happening inside the country as a consequence of U.S. policies. When Biden was elected and came into office, people in Haiti thought that there would be some difference in terms of the politics of Haiti. They were in opposition to their president, Jovenel Moïse, whose term was supposed to be up in February of this year. And they thought that the Biden administration would come in and back them with demanding that Moïse step down. But he did the opposite. He gave the green light to Moïse staying in office, along with the brutality of that decision, creating again an intensification of the political crisis inside the country. So these are policies that the U.S. has been implemented that's created the crisis in Haiti, that's caused people to have to flee and caused people to be afraid for their very lives.
Well, the Center for Constitutional Rights said that they are going to sue. Please explain that. They said to President Biden, if you attempt to warehouse these refugees, these asylum seekers, because they're seeking asylum, everybody. They said that they will sue. Is that the appropriate course of action?
They should.
Okay.
I think that they should if that attempt is made. I suspect, though, that politically it's going to be very difficult for them to make that kind of decision now that people have been alerted. You see, the optics of these cowboys whipping our people with whips and reins really alerted people to the crisis, not only on the border, but the crisis in Haiti. So it has reduced their options to the extent that we might recall that the special envoy to Haiti from the Biden administration, Dan Foote, he resigned. He resigned not only because of the decision to put people back on planes and send them back to Haiti, but he resigned as a consequence of his assessment that the entire policy of the Biden administration, supporting the illegitimate Moise government and propping up a new government that lacks legitimacy inside the country. He said all of these policies were counterproductive. So these are long-term issues that people need to be aware of and demand changes from the Biden administration vis-a-vis Haiti.
Let me go to you, Patricia. Patricia from Colorado. Patricia, what's on your mind today? Is Patricia there?
30 years ago, he called black men predators. And I didn't even vote for him. I voted for Elizabeth Warren. It's just gone. You know, and this is outrageous. You can go to Afghanistan, bring people back on planes like that. I told people, this is how he is. He's a racist. And why are people so surprised? That's what I'm saying. He was that way, and he was a senator.
Your response, Mr. Baraka? Is this an extension of the policies that you've seen from then Senator Biden to the vice president to the president?
Of course. When the Clinton administration was attempting to try to perhaps bring Aristide back into office, it was Senator Biden who said that the world would not be impacted at all if Haiti just disappeared into the ocean. That's been his attitude. Back in March of this year, one of his first addresses to the Haitian people was to say, "Don't come to the U.S." And right after that declaration, he began to send people back to Haiti illegally. So this has been going on for months. And again, people just became aware of it because of the optics that was circulated worldwide a few days ago. So this is his policies. Biden has been a racist. U.S. policy toward Haiti and toward the Caribbean and Latin America, and indeed perhaps even the world, has been fundamentally racist. These individuals are attempting to uphold white power. That's the objective, and that's the character of the policies that they have been implementing for the last few decades.
Attorney C.K. Hoffler, do these asylum seekers, these refugees, have any legal recourse?
Good morning, Santita. Certainly they do. They do have legal recourse because when you are illegally in this, it is a legal question. They have been denied asylum, and it's based on really a health care provision connected to COVID, but that the Trump administration put into place as a way, in my impression, of limiting the black and brown people coming into this country. Mm-hmm. But putting that aside, they certainly do have legal recourse. The legal recourse, of course, is through the immigration court, the system, but there are other civil and human rights, I think, that could be advocated on their behalf. And in fact, there are lawyers that are advocating on their behalf. So I think they do. It's going to take a while for them to come to fruition. I think in the immediate, you've got short-term and long-term goals legally. The short-term goals is to prevent people from getting sent back to a sudden death in some instances. That's a short-term goal. A short-term goal is getting them the proper health care. A short-term goal is taking care and curing the disastrous situation that is occurring in Del Rio under the bridge. And that's why you have, almost every civil rights organization and human rights organization in the world descending upon Del Rio to try to help those Haitian refugees. So that's the short term. Help them in the short term, prevent the planes from going back, prevent them from being sent back, prevent the spread of the healthcare disasters and pandemics that are festering that Dr. Deborah Verholden referenced. The long-term issues, that would be the constitutionality of this. Those are long-term challenges that I think just bear on the Biden administration's policies. That's a long-term litigation on behalf of these refugees. But in the short term, yes, they are being denied asylum. They're being denied asylum in contravention of the law. And so there are remedies, but the problem is time. While this is going through the legal system, some of them are being saved, some of them are being represented, but so many of them have already gone back. Mm-hmm. And I just want to underscore again, and Santita, I know you said this, some of these refugees went to Chile, they went to Brazil, they walk through and for the past 3 or 4 years have been wandering throughout South and Central America just to get here. So they have been in a perilous situation, taking jobs where they could just for the chance and opportunity to work and have a better life. So after all of that, over the past 4 years, some of them, to come here and to have this happen, to be sent back to where they risked their lives for 4 years to leave is really, truly devastating. It speaks to the complexity and the racial disparity of our policy as it relates to Haiti. That's what it speaks to.
Well, Jamu Baraka, before you go, what is your final thought? I mean, what do you think people need to know about what's happening at the border and what's happening with the Haitian people who are seeking asylum in the United States?
I think that we need to not exceptionalize Haiti. That while it's very dramatic, the optics are absolutely terrible. We need to understand that these issues are a consequence of a racist foreign policy that's been at the center of U.S. practice for the last few decades, and that we should be demanding that the Haitian people be allowed to create their own democracy in Haiti, that there should be non-interference from the U.S., from the Canadians, from the French in the internal affairs of Haiti, that the rights of Haitians who are attempting to seek asylum are in fact protected. We have both a legal and a political issue here. Legally, of course, they have those rights, but we know that the U.S. has been acting as a rogue state for the last few decades. So they are just ignoring those rights. So the solution has to be political, to make demands on our representatives to protect the human rights of Haitians and to protect Haitians' attempt to try to exercise self-determination in their own countries, and to link up Haiti with what's happening in the entire regions of the Caribbean and Latin America.
Amen. This is not a one-off, everybody. This is very consistent with American and, quite frankly, Western European policy, colonial policy, and it's got to end. Jamu Baraka, national organizer. I don't know why I keep jumping over that. National organizer from Black Alliance for Peace, but I remember you when you were at the Institute for Policy Studies. So glad that you are keeping up the fight. Brilliant man that you are. Thank you so much for being with us today. Blessings to you and our love to Dr. Pierre.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can't wait. It's not the last time. I'm going to see you soon. How about that? Of
course.
Of course. Blessings to you. Let's talk about this, everybody, on the Santita Jackson Show. Call us at 773-763-9278. You can text us at the same number. GWC&G Lawyers gives you that opportunity. Want to hear your voices, want to know what your thoughts are. Back in just a minute. Okay, and I'm going to get right to you, Robert Patillo.
WCPT Willow Springs is powered.
Ms. Joseph's on the line.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Reduce your
fantastic.
carbon footprint with the ComEd
Could you bring the radio down so I can
Hi, folks.
speak with her, please? Hello, Ms. Joseph.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. We have a wonderful panel, but boy, are we glad to have you. Didn't know I was going to get you today, but I'm so glad because I know you are busy. The Haitian Bridge Alliance, everybody. We're so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Before I start, I want to say honneur respect, which is how we enter somebody's home with all respect and give them honor within the Haitian culture.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you so much for that. But this is your home. So just know that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This is your home. I'm so glad that you're here. I want to introduce you to the people who you are joining, but we want to hear from you. And I want to thank Carrie Kennedy of the Robert Kennedy Foundation for connecting us. Was very, very generous of her, and she's going to be with us next week. And so thank you for being with us today. But we've got Dr. Deborah Holden left, but we've got attorney C.K. Hoffler, who is the chair of Rainbow Push, and she's the past immediate president of the National Bar Association, which is the largest and oldest black bar association in the world. And we've got Dwight McKee. He's a founding member of the National Action Network of Rainbow Push, well, Operation Push, actually 50 plus years ago. And he's a noted social scientist. And we've got Robert Patillo, who is the Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push. And he has his own radio show, civil rights lawyer, noted, just absolutely brilliant. And he has his own radio show on WAOK, which is the iconic black talk radio station in Atlanta, as does every Sunday from 1 to 4, as does attorney C.K. Hoffler. She deals with legal issues once a week there every Tuesday. And so we've got a wonderful, wonderful group of people here, and I'm so glad that you are here. But I tell you what, Carrie Kennedy couldn't say enough wonderful things about you, which is the Haitian Bridge Alliance.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yes, she is so kind. She is so kind. And we really appreciate her support over the years. When we called and she heard about what was happening, and she said, I am coming, literally dropped everything and came to support and came to witness what was happening.
Well, thank you. And I want to know how to pronounce your name correctly, because the attorney Hoffler grew up in Switzerland in part, so French is her second language. It might be her first, really.
I wanted your permission to properly greet my sister.
Please.
Bonjour, madame. Enchantée de faire votre connaissance. Et vraiment, au nom du révérend Jesse Jackson, Rainbow Push, je suis le conseil de l'administration. Vraiment,
One minute.
Pour vous, on est là. C'est important de comprendre ça. On est là pour vous chaque temps.
Merci, mais nous sommes honorés d'avoir le révérend Jesse Jackson avec nous dans la lutte pour la liberté.
Absolument. Et toujours là. All right, so Santita, what I just said was just on behalf of Reverend Jackson, Rainbow Push Coalition, we are there 100% of the time, every step of the way, and which, as she answered, they are so
30 seconds.
Jackson, they're fighting in solidarity with them.
Amen. And how do I pronounce your name?
Gerline. If you are French speaking or Haitian speaking, it's Gerline. However, if we are speaking with our American,
15 seconds.
Gerline. Girl in. The girl is in.
is where my head was. Yourself. Oh.
Because facts
Okay,
matter.
wait a minute.
You're
Hold it,
listening to
everybody.
WCPT 820.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today as we are talking about Haiti. And I want you all to continue to like and share this show. Like and share all my people on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, my Morning Stars. Please, everybody, like and share. And those of you who are on YouTube, please like and subscribe as we talk about Haiti today on the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278 or WCPT. And you can text us at that same number. Thank you, or thanks to GWC Injury Lawyers. We are talking about the situation at the border with these men, women, and children who are seeking asylum, and it is their international right to do so, but they are being kicked out. They're being sent back to Haiti. And we want to know what is going on and what it is that we can do about that. And joining attorney C.K. Hoffler, past national president of the National Bar Association, chair of Rainbow Push, and attorney Robert Patillo, director of Rainbow Push Atlanta, the Southeastern Regional Director of Rainbow Push for that organization, and Dwight McKee from the National Action Network and founding member of Operation Push, founding board member, as a matter of fact. We are joined by one of the great freedom fighters. She is the head of the Haitian Bridge Alliance. It's the only Black and woman-run immigration advocacy group. And we want to thank her, Gerlin Joseph, but it's Gerlin Joseph. And so we're so glad that you are with us today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having us. We are the only Haitian-led, the only Black women-led at the U.S.-Mexico border. However, we do have other amazing freedom fighters such as the Bajika Black Alliance for Just Immigration, Dr. Black, African Communities Together, ABISA. There are not too many Black-led organizations working on immigration around the country, but we are here and we are mighty and we are pushing. But Haitian Bridge Alliance is leading the fight at the U.S.-Mexico border for all Black people coming from the Caribbean and Africa. And we also created the first Black Immigrants Bail Fund to be able to answer to the needs of our brothers and sisters arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border, only to be put in immigration prison and being charged up to $50,000 and $70,000 in order for them to get released.
Do we see this? Is this typical of the immigration process for people who seek asylum coming to the United States, or is this particular to Haiti and browner, darker, Blacker nations?
From what we understand, and of course the attorneys, please chime in, if please to give the legality of things.
Of course.
But it is not just for Haitians. However, when it comes to Haitians and other Black migrants, the bonds and other things seems to be harsher, higher, and more difficult.
We're talking with Gerlin Joseph. She is the head of the Haitian Bridge Alliance. We want to know what is happening at the border. What is happening at the border? What are the conditions under which these asylum seekers are living or dwelling?
Horrific. We all saw the pictures earlier during the week. We saw the videos. What you saw, what the world saw, is exactly what's been happening. When people who have been kept in Mexico because of the previous administration's policies that completely dismantled any avenues for people to come and ask for asylum, and we see the current administration continue the same policies, the same practices of instead of welcoming people, we are seeing the administration turning their back and treating people less than. And we saw the pictures of the men in uniform on his horseback literally violently abusing Black bodies. What we saw in those pictures, what we are seeing in those videos, that's exactly what's been happening. That is why we are standing up to say enough is enough, no more. We are asking for them to provide protection, to provide humanitarian parole for those Haitians, for people of Haitian descent who find themselves at the U.S.-Mexico border because of internal violence and external violence in our homeland, whether it is political turmoil, the assassination of the president, on top of that earthquake and storm that's literally making people leave home, and only to be met by extreme violence at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Do you think we frame immigration policy? It seems that when we think of immigrants, we think of Europeans, and we even think of our brothers and sisters from the Latinx community, but we really don't see it. We don't really think about Black immigrants enough, do we?
No, we don't. For example, when we talk about immigrants at the U.S.-Mexico border, we've been having a steady a migrant community at the U.S.-Mexico border from the Caribbean, Jamaica, Haiti, and all over Africa, primarily from Cameroon because of what's happening there, Mauritania because of modern-day slavery, Ethiopia, the Congo, many different countries from Africa that have been at the U.S.-Mexico border since 2016. And when they talk about family separation, the majority of the families that were separated at the border in 2017 were Haitians, where they will probably, if the woman is extremely pregnant or they have a baby, that literally they have no choice but to release that person. They will put the husband in prison, deport the husband, leaving the wife and the child behind. What we have right now within the Haitian community, especially in San Diego, is a community of single mothers whose husbands and partners have been deported and leaving them behind instead of reuniting them, instead of providing safety for them. They literally continue to destroy those families, and we have women crying every day because they said, we just wanted life. We want our husband with us. We want our children's fathers with us so that we can be successful in this new land. However, they cannot do that because they have been separated. But we don't hear the stories because the narratives of Black immigrants have, one, been ignored or straight up erased.
Robert Patillo.
No,
please continue.
That's where we are right now.
Robert Patillo, what do you make of this?
It's a continuation of U.S. policy, and I can't help but think to myself, what would we be doing right now if Trump was still president? If we were seeing these images at the border with Donald Trump in office of cowboys rounding up Black people, dragging them off, sticking them on airplanes, flying them back to a country they haven't been to in decades, in some cases, we would literally be standing outside of the White House right now protesting. There would be articles of impeachment drawn up. And sometimes I think, imagine if Joe Biden had taken this opportunity and appointed a Black woman to be in charge of the border, a Black woman of Caribbean descent to be in charge of the border, a Black woman of Caribbean descent who went to an HBCU in charge of the border. He did. Kamala Harris is the border czar, and we haven't heard a word from her. We haven't seen a visit from her. We haven't seen any empathy from her with what the U.S. policy is. And I think we have to understand that going into the next election cycles, these people need us. They are going to need the Haitian vote in places like Florida if they want to begin taking that state back. They're going to need the Haitian vote in places like Boston and Massachusetts. And we have to flex our political muscle for them to understand that we can no longer be second and third and fourth class citizens in this country for those of us who are Haitian American citizens, that we demand our brethren be given every human right accorded to somebody coming from Belgium or coming from Norway or coming from the United Kingdom. And until they're treated as such, we need to make the people in power understand that we will be heard and that our voices will be, our muscle will be flexed, and that we're no longer just going to be part of the get-along gang, just going along and get along. We're actually going to be fighting for the rights we demand, and we aren't going to be taking no for an answer any longer.
Do you think that we should be applying pressure to the administration, to Vice President Harris, to President Biden? Indeed, you heard Auntie Maxine, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, really issue a scathing indictment, she said, of the Biden administration. She said in her words, she said, I'm pissed. This is wrong. Yes.
Well, absolutely, and I think even this dog and pony show of hiding behind the Trump administration, saying, "Well, it's not us; it's just the policies of Trump." You've been in office, 9 months now. This is there's only so long you can keep looking backwards, and these things are happening in real time today. And let's understand what was really happening. The Biden administration was getting incoming from every corner by conservative media. So they wanted to figure out a way to flex their bona fides to make it seem like they weren't soft on immigration. They did not want to upset the Latino caucus. They're 20% of the country and a big part of the Democratic base. So they decided to pick on Haitians because they don't have the same kind of political apparatus in place where they can push back against the administration. So as usual, the Haitians end up being the scapegoats and the whipping boys of American policy, even with the Democrat in office.
Dwight McKee, your thoughts? Do you think we would be up in arms if this were happening under the Trump administration?
Well, I'll say a couple of things on Robert's point, and then I get there. Is the same Harris, Robert, that started the president's debate by saying, Mr. Biden, you didn't want me on the bus to get a quality education. So she was vocal when it was personal, but she's been profoundly silent when it has to do with the Haitians rather than her situation with the same Biden that has been consistent with these racist policies for the last 40 years. I think that the contradictions of this situation are the ones that affect me the most profoundly. It's the same French that sent to us the Statue of Liberty with the "Send us your child and your poor." Those were the same French that enslaved the Haitians and forced them to pay reparations, and the same America that they sent the Statue of Liberty to are the ones that 150 years later still oppress the Haitians. It is so personal. Lastly, I want to say is that we ought to also have a congressional investigation of the Clintons to find out where the money went that was put aside for Haitian development. $100 million is put aside in the foundation that they became the fiduciaries of that the Haitians have never seen. We have to deal with the Haitians. Robert is absolutely right, like we deal with everybody else. In fairness, for some reason, everybody is accountable for violating everybody else. But when it comes to the Haitians, they have their own category of disrespect. They have no real recourse for the last 150 and 200 years in terms of being treated. We would never tolerate this if it was a gay community. We would never tolerate this if it was a Jewish community. We would never tolerate this for any community other than the brown and black refugees that comes from Africa and from the Caribbean.
I would say any community. I mean, other communities really do advocate. They advocate. And I think that we have to advocate. And to be fair, Vice President Harris, it is on record that she had a phone call with the head of DHS who was saying that they need to go back. He has since changed his tune. And she raised as quote unquote grave concerns about how the Haitians were being treated at the border, to be fair. But should she be doing more, Ms. Joseph? In particular, should she be doing more?
Absolutely, not doing more. She hasn't done anything at all. You know, and even the special envoy to Haiti resigned yesterday. And he sent the letter stating why he resigned, because it's unacceptable for the United States to continue to use violence against black bodies and continue to meddle in the businesses of Haiti and then turn their backs on Haiti when they are in need. So it is unacceptable. Even the special envoy, the person that the Biden administration has appointed to be the liaison between the United States and Haiti during the time of trouble, he resigned, stating that he cannot continue in this position knowing that this is abuse. Yet, the Biden administration did not even pause to investigate what we saw, what the world saw on TV and on the news. In addition, I don't remember which of the attorneys was speaking earlier, and I told some people yesterday that if it was Trump under Trump, for these acts to be happening, we would have been in front of the White House right now.
Mm-hmm.
We would have been on the hill in Congress screaming, crying, screaming racism, screaming white supremacy, screaming all of those. Where are we now? The people need you. They need your voice. They cannot speak for themselves. Those images you saw, the young men and those people who were being mistreated have been deported. They will never get justice. As we look at where we are in 2021 as a people, as the nation, we cannot allow our government to continue to abuse Black bodies. People must be received with dignity. Little Black girls, little Black boys with their parents asking for a chance at survival. You know how they responded here in Del Paso? Guards. 400 National Guards descended to protect the United States from little babies, from little Black babies in need of asylum. Little Black babies, little Black girls, Black boys whose parents are so desperate that they will listen to any type of information to tell them where to go to get protection for their children, for their family. It is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
As a woman, as a Haitian woman, as an American woman, as a Black Haitian American woman, this is unacceptable. My soul is screaming. My heart is broken. My being is tired and exhausted. Black lives matter. No matter where we are born, no matter where we are from, our lives matter.
Amen to that. And in fact, Daryl, you said yes, Vice President Harris can do more, but she would be blackballed and silenced by her own party and party leadership. And there's that. And so what? My grandmother Helen, God rest her soul, said, if you can't take it, you can't make it. And there's some other people who said, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. I cannot give people space when I elect you and put you in an office. We made that mistake with President Obama. You can't give people passes when they have their hands on the reins of power. And you continue to pivot to Reverend Sharpton or even Reverend Jackson, who has Parkinson's and will be 80 in another week and a half, 2 weeks. Oh, they're going to march until they can't march anymore. Reverend Sharpton, Jonathan Jackson, who saw Kerry Kennedy, and Kerry Kennedy, then he connected all of us yesterday, and then Reverend Freddie Haynes and Pastor Jamal Bryant. These men went down to the border yesterday. Rachel Nordlinger, they went down there yesterday to find out what was going on. Okay, now that is one element, but I tell you what, you can't elect people to office and just then put them on a shelf. They're supposed to fight for you. They're supposed to work for you. They work for you. This is not a monarchy, everybody. You elect people to work for you. I can't give them that space. They can't have it. Now, while people sit up there and drinking, they're having to live in their own filth. Or they have to go to Gitmo. Are you serious? Or they get put on a plane and taken to a place that they haven't been to in a decade, if not longer. Just shameful. And you heard the pain of Miss Joseph. You heard that.
Gitmo, I cannot even understand how they think they can do that again. And I say again because they did it in the 1970s, 1980s. When the Haitians and the Cubans were coming, the darker-skinned Haitians were unwanted. They put them in Guantanamo. They caged them like sardines in subhuman conditions. Has broken our community because what they use, they say we are the ones who are carrying AIDS.
That's right.
To the point where they named it 4-H's. So because I cannot even fathom that they will be using Gitmo after what they did in the 1980s to Haitian bodies.
I think it's important that they use Gitmo. Be honest. I say, Ms. Joseph, keep it real. Everyone needs to know exactly how this rolls out. Let me go to you, Stephanie, from Kankakee. Stephanie, very quickly, what's your question for CK?
We used to be, my question is, we used to be able to sponsor people and families. Can we do a call for action to get churches and people to start sponsoring some of these people to get them over here? Because marching works, but you got to have some action behind the marching. You got to have a plan. We can talk, we can march, and we got to have a plan, a workable call of action.
Well, very quickly.
It's possible to sponsor these people.
CK, I mean, because, because I have to tell you, marching, to be fair, historically, marching has been an end point. There was always a lot of planning. You marched when, after you had been negotiating with elected officials, after you'd been negotiating with private businesses. We march today. Other people have worked. You work all day, every day. I got less than a minute, CK, because I want to toss this back to Ms. Yosef. Can we sponsor people, CK? Okay, well, Robert, can we sponsor people?
They're still there.
And is that people connect directly with churches and charities that are on the ground there in Haiti. The State Department has
Attorney Hoffler hung up
now that are still currently in flux with regards to sponsoring individuals to come to the U.S. Frankly, this is one of the places where the Trump administration did leave a mess for Biden and kind of a tangled web of what the current status of the law is, which is something that, frankly, Biden should be put at the top of his agenda for straightening out and clarifying. They ran on a concept of being confident 50 years in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would recommend is get in contact with your local Haitian churches, community groups who are actually there on the ground, not the massive NGOs, so not the Red Cross, not the Clinton Global Initiative, groups like that, but individuals that you know specifically what they're doing, where they're going, and try to fundraise through them in order to get resources on the ground there while they work through the political turmoil and also the humanitarian crisis of both the earthquake and the hurricane, which have hit in the last several months. And we are now entering into the teeth of hurricane season, so things will probably be getting worse before they get better.
Ms. Joseph, the last, minute and a half belongs to you.
Well, thank you so much for having us, and thank you for being on this journey with us. Our call to action is really to push and ask for them to provide humanitarian parole for those people and stop the deportations, stop the expulsion. Yesterday alone, they deported 1,000 people. Today, most likely scheduled to deport another 1,000 people. That money that's being used to literally, added to the destructions of lives could be used to actually welcome those people with dignity. The majority of those people have a family member or somebody in the United States that can receive them. The very few who do not have anyone in the United States, as the attorney just mentioned, can get support from local Haitian churches in the United States. We are asking for foreign policies to Haiti to be different because it is not working. We are asking for the support given to earthquake relief to go directly to the community, not to go to the big NGOs, the Red Crosses and all of those. Make sure that whatever you donate, whatever you give is being provided for the community on the ground in Haiti, and make sure whatever you donate and give in the United States for the asylum seekers goes to those people directly. So we are here. We will continue to push, and we make sure that we get protection for all people.
50 seconds.
Protection for those who are the U.S. Mexico border right now and those who are in extreme need of protection. So please continue to call the White House, write your statements, write your letters asking for them to provide humanitarian parole and stop the deportation of people of Haitian descent.
Everybody, I want you to stay here with me for just a few more minutes so we can get some closing thoughts from everybody on this panel. We're going to get Attorney Hoffler back on because she was answering you, Stephanie, and she got disconnected. But we're staying connected. And I want you to know, Ms. Joseph, you have a home here. We have taken up this battle on this show because everyone needs to be treated fairly, justly, humanely. That's the American way. It's God's way. We're going to make it right, everybody. We're going to make it right. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson and the Santita Jackson Show. And I will see you on, Reverend Jackson will be back on Keep Hope Alive on Sunday. All right? So we'll be talking about this back in a minute. How can we get in touch with the Haitian Bridge Alliance, Mr. Joseph?
And value. Value is more than a price tag. It's the confidence of knowing you have a team of traders on standby to answer any question. It's Thinkorswim's charting and analysis tools, and it's a personalized education to fine-tune your skills.
Yeah, I'll be right back. I gotta switch the station over.
Okay, no, if you could turn this down so I can speak with them. Okay. Ms. Joseph, how can we get in touch with the Haitian Bridge Alliance?
It's info@haitianbridge.org. That's the email, info@haitianbridge.org. You can call me too. My number is 917-496-2248.
And I want you to know we heard you and felt you today. And when we saw when we saw our brothers and sisters horsewhipped at the border, I have to tell you, well, let me go around and ask everyone what images that evoked for you, Dwight. When you saw, because I said I feel like I'm in the fields with the sugarcane and the beans and the cotton. I'm not picking fast enough, Dwight.
What we're not discussing is who Biden is sending this message to. What he's really saying is to the Trump crowd and those white voters to the right is that you don't need Trump. If I got your back, I will keep these black people out and down. You really don't need Trump for this. I think like he thinks, I will protect you from these black people. And so you can keep voting for me and be confident that I got white supremacy totally in check. And I will make sure that we will be in charge for the next 40 years. Vote for me, and I'll set you free. That's the message he's sending. And he's not just doing this sporadically. This is a strategy. It is a strategy that he's used over the years to play to the right.
Robert Patillo?
Dwight is absolutely correct, and if you look at many of the things that we consider to be a faux pas in the Biden administration over the last, all of them have been when he started.
Attorney Hoffler's back.
The Afghanistan exit, he was playing to the right. After the murder of the U.S. soldiers, they decided they had to have a retaliation strike, killed 10 children. He was playing to the right, and that seemed like he was soft on defense. Even in this situation, the border crisis was getting out of hand, had to find somebody to pick on, so he picked on the black people. They don't have the lobbyists. They don't have the same, they don't have La Raza. They don't have other organizations like that to stand up for Haitian Americans. And the interesting thing, the reason that Dwight is right, is just look at conservative media right now. They are unanimously behind Biden and behind the Border Patrol agents, claiming that no, they weren't with them. That was the reins that they were using. No, this was the right policy. So Biden's actually getting positive marks from conservative media who hate black people more than they could ever hate Biden. So Dwight is right on point on that.
C.K. Hoffler? When you saw them horsewhipped at the border, what did that evoke in your mind? What did you think?
Just the tragedy of the history of black people, the tragedy, the history of Haitian people. Well, the Haitian community and Haitians just in general, they were the first country to rebuke in the Caribbean, black country to rebuke colonial powers in the 1800s. And so that picture was reminiscent of probably what it was like in the 1800s for Haiti as a country, as the French colonial powers were fighting them, and they pushed them back and out of the country in the 1800s. So the irony of me seeing that was how since the 1800s, we come to present. We have gone back in time in terms of the tragedy and oppression. That's what that image evoked in my mind. And it should every person in this world should be disgraced and disgusted. But if you are a Black person, it hits home. It hits home.
I promise you, Ms. Joseph, I mean, it hit home. It already hit home because I knew about the wet foot, dry foot. And, maybe because, I mean, my family has been so involved with the Haitian community for so many decades. I get it. But just look, even if you have not had the kind of political involvement in which I grew up, come on now. They separate really Haitians and Cubans when they get to Florida. I mean, if you're Black, if you're white, you're all right. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're brown, stick around. If you're Black, get back. That is real.
Yes. Yes, in what everyone have said is on point. This is not a message to just the Haitian community. It's a message to the white supremacists, because Ted Cruz came with his camera and said the United States is being invaded by Haitians, and the reason why is because Biden is not deporting them fast enough, and Biden turns around and answers to the call and deported everyone, because we at the United States are being invaded by little Black babies, girls and boys with their parents. So to let everyone know, everything that was said is absolutely on point. But on top of that, it is not just about the Haitians, it's about the Black people, period. Because if Haiti can prosper, that is a sign that we as a community can prosper. So that there's too much at play for us to ignore those realities.
You were saying something, Robert?
Oh no! All I was doing is just piggybacking off that, and look, we have to look at the historical analogs to these things. The reason America has worked so hard to keep Black America separated from Haitians and then separated from Haiti, have this negative image in their mind of Haiti. I remember being in elementary school, and people asked me, "Well, how'd your mom get to America? Did she come over on a tire?" I'm like, "No, she came over on an airplane." But that's what the imagery and the idea that they were given of Haiti during that period of time. This is what this generation's imagery of Haiti is going to be. The reason for this is look at the Stono Rebellion, when America accidentally brought over some Angolans and they started revolting against the white supremacy power structure. Look at the Haitian Revolution, where you had Senegalese soldiers who were accidentally brought over in a shipment, and next thing you know, you got Dudley Bookman and you have the entire revolution taking place. So what Americans don't want is that Haitian revolutionary experience infiltrating and influencing Black Americans to the point that they stop singing and as Malcolm says, start swinging. And this is why America can have such a virulent policy of white supremacy towards Haiti, because they understand what is at risk of a fully empowered Black community that's ready to demand change and not simply ask for it.
So what should be the course of action with this administration now?
Well, I think the first thing the administration has to do is create a consecrated Haiti policy. You have to end the differences in the treatment between Haitian immigrants and other Latin American immigrants. We have to change the difference in treatment between Cuban Americans and Haitian Americans, which still exists till today. And we also need a comprehensive immigration reform policy that formalizes and streamlines our asylum process. Because if an earthquake, a hurricane, and assassination aren't enough for you to claim political asylum, I'm not quite sure why we have an asylum system in place. So we need to get those things done and straightened out. And also, we need presidential leadership. We need a president who's willing to stand up and talk about these things, visit the border, let it be known that if this is indeed not your administration's priority or policy, then let them know what your administration's policy is. I disagree with the Trump immigration policy, but I knew what the Trump immigration policy was to disagree with it. I do not know what this administration's immigration policy is or what they're going to do to change it going forward.
What would you have us do, Ms. Joseph? How can just what do you want to see us do? How can we best advocate with you? Not for you, but with you, because we are one, really.
Yes, indeed, we are one. It's advocate for all the things we have heard, and the attorney that just spoke, that's exactly what is needed. We need our brothers and sisters to stand against this type of violence because we understand the connectivity and we understand the message that is being sent. We need President Biden and his administration know that we understand the message, we receive the message, and we are going to act accordingly. We have received the message. And we are asking, we are calling for them to stop deportations, stop provide a humanitarian support, but it is so much deeper than that. That's what I would like to say thank you to each and everyone on this panel today. I am so grateful that you are here advocating, speaking truth to power, and trying to dismantle the system that is rooted in anti-Black racism, and we continue to see the action of such systems. So our call to action is to really reunite and push forward to the freedom and liberation, but also to change that system that is rooted and created to destroy Black lives.
You know, and Dwight, I think that we have to, and CK and Robert and Ms. Joseph, I think we have to really get beyond the people we elect who make history, and we're so excited when they do. You can't stop there, everybody. I appreciate that, but that's one of the lessons I think that we should have learned in the Obama administration. Got to give you space because, you know, we don't do that with our Black leaders. We expect them to advocate for us, but then again, they have the space to do that because we pay them to do that. These leaders, these elected officials, we actually pay their salaries, and we elect them with a particular. They say that when they go into office, they're going to be our advocates and they're going to do X, Y, and Z for us, and you have to hold them to that. You can't get past that. You can't say, well, you know, they're going to have a hard time. So what are they there for? If that's the case, you could have elected a Republican who you could fight and get something out of. Grow up in your politics, everybody. You know what I'm saying, Geraldine? I mean, come on. I mean, look, I could have had Trump. Trump, I was able to get something from HBCUs from him. Y'all can say whatever you want. That's what he did at the beginning of the year. That was one of his last acts. And you have seen it. While we lost a lot of ground for 8 years with Black colleges, with HBCUs, he helped to restore these Black colleges. I don't care what you think about him and his politics. That's what happened. That's what politics is about. You negotiate with people, even with your friends. You must hold them to account and make them work for you. If not, you need to kick them out. Whoever is going to make progress for you, you put them in. A friend can't be a friend if they're not going to help you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially in the case of this administration, coming and saying that we are friends of Haiti when they are literally stabbing us in the back and literally letting us die and not providing the protection that is due to us. It is unacceptable. So thank you so much. I know I have spoken a lot. I am frustrated. I am tired at the treatment that we continue to see. Our men and women getting killed left and right in this country. You know, but as all of us have said, it is time for a change.
But you were supposed to, you weren't supposed to come here and be silent. That's what you're here for. You're supposed to say this. Dwight, now is not the time for us to be silent. And I hear you and feel your pain, Miss Joseph. I mean, Dwight, we're not supposed to just elect people and let them just sit there. We've got to act. We've got to push them. That's what we did with FDR. We went to him because Black people didn't want to fight in the Second World War because they said we're being lynched, we're living with Jim Crow, we're living under the most deplorable conditions. This is unacceptable. And you want me to go fight your war? I'm not going to do it. They were going to have a march on Washington. A. Philip Randolph and other leaders went to the president because they said we cannot win this war without these Black people. They said, okay, you know, he said, but these are our concerns and our demands. Because part of what happened with the Second World War, they ended up having to desegregate the armed forces. Well, He said, you know what? You're right, but go out there and make me do it. You must make Biden and Harris and everybody else do your bidding. Otherwise, they will do the bidding of others. Dwight?
And the victory can't be for them to stop beating us on horses with whips.
Oh.
The victory has to be is the policy has to be set up in such that they have to stop raping us and compensate us for the 200 years that they've plundered and raped the country. It's the victory has to be justice. It can't be, okay, we plundered the country, now you all are broke, we own all of the resources in the country, and we're going to find a house for you all to live in Wyoming. That's not the victory. The victory is to change the policy and reimburse the people so they can build their own infrastructure and take full advantage of the prosperity that they've created for everybody other than themselves.
That's right. I mean, Dwight, I'm so tired of looking at it. I mean, Caroline, I have to tell you, I am so tired of seeing poor black and brown countries. Oh, they're just, no, they're not poor. We're rich.
Oh.
I mean, and we're rich because of the black and brown bodies, and because of all of our oil up under their sand, and diamonds in their mines. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, may I add that, for example, when we say the poor country and we talk about Haiti being the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, how did Haiti get here? How is it the most successful colony become the fourth country in the hemisphere? Have been impoverished. Those countries in Africa, all the mines and all the treasures have been taken from them. They would be the First Nations like France and Italy and the Great Britain without the wealth of the African continent. They wouldn't be able to survive unless they continue to be leeches on the back of the African continent and on the back of black people. Where will they be without our wealth that they have taken, stolen, and continue to do the same every single day in 2021? So those places, those countries, they're not poor. They are impoverished by the world power, because that's the only way they can get wealth. It's on the back of blacks in Africa and in the Caribbean and around the world.
Well, I think that, we, as my father often says, you need to be clear on who the creditor and who the debtor is. And we have this all twisted up. We keep thinking that we're the debtors. We even think, Robert, that we're the debtors in the United States. This country was built by immigrants. No, that's not true. This country on stolen land worth untold sums of money was built by black people who were brought here. And we made this an industrial superpower because you did not pay for our labor. We didn't labor for free. We weren't paid. Robert?
Well, and I just want to mention that brings up the macro issue of what will actually solve Haiti's problems, which is the repayment of colonial debt. The fact is that Haiti paid France about $100 billion throughout the 19th century in order for France not to reinvade. So this is we've been seen throughout the colonial world during decolonization, and that's part of what has kept the African and Caribbean nations poor, having to pay your oppressors to actually leave. And what happens if you don't pay them to leave? Well, we saw that in the United States of America. We beat the British in the Revolution. They come back in 1812 to try to reconquer the land. The options are either you pay us or we reconquer you. And that is what set Haiti up from the beginning to be in an economic hole, because so much of their GDP and natural resources got flown out and shipped out to finance, the kings and queens of Europe instead of building up their infrastructure. You have to add to that the fact that America has always been anti-Haiti. Go back to Thomas Jefferson's writings on Haiti. They failed and refused to even recognize them as a nation for 50 years after their founding. They have never established true diplomatic ties for subjugation. They never established true economic ties. Why is it that Haiti doesn't look the same way as Barbados or the Bahamas or any everywhere else where American tourists go often, or even the other side of the island, the Dominican Republic, is because of America's policy of isolating and cutting Haiti off from the rest of the world economically in order to ensure that everyone else sees what happens when a black nation rebels, and make sure that black Americans understand, look, if you start fighting, if you try to start standing up for yourself, you see how Haiti looks. That's how you're going to look. And that's what they keep them there for. And in Rome, after one of the slave revolts, what they did is they took all the revolting slaves and put them on crucifixes for 100 miles leading into Rome. Mm-hmm. The entire point of that was so that every other slave that ever considered revolting would have to see 100 miles of bodies, so they would know to stay in their place. That is what that's what America's treatment of Haiti is about, to make sure that blacks in America understand that this is the result of you rebelling against the European colonial powers.
And blacks throughout the world. And we did that with Castro in Cuba. Yes, we did. We have been at war with them. That is what we're trying to do to Venezuela. But we won't do it to Poland. No, we'd never do that. We won't do it to Russia. Oh no, and they're communists. Well, socialist, but they were communist. We wouldn't do that to them. We do it to these brown and black people and yellow people. It's just China's not going to have it anymore. Not making a case for them, but you need to stop and get this right. Really. Horsewhipping people at the border. Sadly, there was Ms. Joseph, it was a wake-up call for us. And you know what? I'm glad we're now woke. Okay? But we're the ones who are going to have to press the administration, Ms. Joseph.
Yes. Yes, we have been awakened by the horrific actions or the inactions, of the administration on behalf of the people. Sometimes it takes those pictures to let people see what's been happening behind the closed doors, behind the gates, behind the fences. As horrific as those pictures are, it has been the reality. So now we see, now we know, now we must act.
Legally, CK, what is the path legally? I mean, is this something that should be fought in the American court system? The treatment of these people, the fact that they're being blocked from seeking asylum, is this an international issue? Is it both?
I think it's both. I think that legally the fight should be very, very aggressive and broad. So I think we talked about earlier the short-term legal options of the refugees that have not already been deported, having representation. I know there are lots of groups, including the National Bar Association, that have formed a partnership with Bridge as well, to represent them. But the problem is time. It's happening so quickly. That's first. So then the long-term solution, finding the constitutionality of it, and there are many organizations that are poised to do that and who are instituting such litigation. But I think even in the international context, I believe at the UN, there's a movement afoot to stand in solidarity with the Haitian refugees, and I think there may be actions that can be taken legally on the international stage as well, because what is happening to the Haitian refugees here could happen anywhere. And someone needs to, I think the legal actions can begin the process of putting a stop to it while the politicians try to figure out what they're going to do.
Well, I want to get closing thoughts from everybody here. Let me start with you, Robert Patillo. What's our takeaway? We will be talking about this on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson on Sunday. Reverend is very, very keen to discuss this. And Ms. Joseph, I'm going to reach out to you to see if you'll be able to join Reverend Jackson on Sunday. It's the first time he's been back in a little more than a month, but he is all over this. Robert Patillo.
Absolutely, and I thank you so much. As soon as this began, even before it hit the national news, I think I had an email to everyone saying we have to put out a statement on this because the mainstream media has already moved on from this story, if you have noticed. So this is not the leading headline in every national newspaper. It's not the leading headline the way the kids in cages were on every single cable news show. And the reason is twofold. One, the mainstream liberal media, the conservative conservatives like to call it, do not like highlighting cases where the current administration has failed. So they try to make excuses for it. And then on the conservative side of the aisle, they agree with deporting black people on the conservative side of the aisle. So they're not going to make a political stink about it. No one is going to stand up for poor black migrants. Secondarily, it's because we have to make sure that it's an issue. We can't simply go back and start making excuses for Biden and Harris. We have to demand better. You're not going to get better if you don't demand better. So we need to ensure that our allies in the Congressional Black Caucus and our allies in the immigrants' rights community stand up for this, because whenever there's an issue with the Latin American community, Latinx, Latino, Hispanic community, however you want to identify yourself within that subset, whenever they have issues, they want us there with them. So in this case, we need all the major immigrant organizations standing up for these Haitian immigrants and not simply making it a xenophobic, jingoistic, tribalistic encounter, but rather a holistic policy procedure where we stop this from happening going forward. This isn't the first time it happened. This is the first time it was on camera, and we have to understand the difference.
C.K. Hoffler, your closing thought?
My closing thoughts is that we have to continue to fight for this fight, because this is a fight for Black people, and just period, in this country, in the diaspora, but it's happening on our soil. So when I see all of the civil rights and human rights organizations in this country led by Black people, and when I see our Congressional Black Caucus members led by, Congressman Maxine Waters and others who are protesting, who are going to the Biden administration and saying, you've got to do better, and you got to, and holding their feet to the fire, that is the kind of action that we need to have. But we have to do it on all fronts: legal, legislative, legal meaning litigation, legislative through the members of Congress, through local elected officials, folks in Texas, everywhere, and then also on a grassroots level, coordinating the efforts and have the leadership be Haitian organizations, because they are in the best position to guide us to the appropriate solution in this case.
Dwight McKee.
Well, Reverend Johnson opened up your segment today by talking about not being a respecter of persons. And in this situation, we have to treat Biden just the same way we would have treated Trump. We have to force him and force that administration to do the right thing. We cannot give them a buy or justify them or explain them and dismiss these racist policies, which if it was done to anybody else would be seen that way, or if it was done by anybody else, be seen that way. We have to say, this is done to us. This is done to us by them. We have to protect us, and we have to protect them protect us by fighting them. We have to have one set of rules for everybody, including the Biden administration.
Ms. Joseph, the floor belongs to you.
I just have to echo my brothers and sisters on this panel. And again, so grateful for each and every one of you. I don't really have much to add. We have to hold them accountable. As we just heard, they need to abide by the same set of rules. We cannot give a pass just because. We cannot be complacent because we are worried. That's how violence happens. That's how everything that we are fighting for, fear, we cannot allow fear of losing whatever it is they are holding on to power, determine how we fight on our behalf. Who's going to fight for us? Nobody has ever fought for us but us. We have to fight for ourselves. So thank you so much. I do not have the words to express how grateful I am. And I'm hearing my voice right now, and I'm thinking, my voice is gone, right?
Oh, no.
But I am grateful to know that I am no longer in this fight by myself. As a matter of fact, I realize because of the voices on the panel, the voices on the radio right now, I was never by myself. So I am grateful to each and every one of you, and I am looking forward to continue this journey with you all. Thank you so much for having me. I have to rush because I have to go take care about some emergencies, but please, 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 let's continue to push forward.
Sending you much love and many blessings.
Thank you so much. Blessings to you all.
Absolutely. And we are one, everybody. We are one. And of course, as people of African descent, we see this a particular way, but I think that all human beings should see this way. The only reason we're all in America is because something happened. That's why we're here. Even though Black people were kidnapped and brought here or sold over here, all of that. We're here because we're coming up with something new, really, at the end of the day. You know, God can hit a straight lick with a crooked stick. This is, my father has often said that we came over here on different ships, but we're in the same boat now, and that's real. So now what are we going to do? How are we going to make a free and just society for everyone? That really is the point. Whether you're white, yellow, red, black, or brown, seeing people horsewhipped at the border ought to appall you. You should have a human reaction to that because it was wrong. These people are seeking asylum here. You can't treat the Afghan people one way and the Haitian people one way. Don't act like the Afghan people gave you more than the Haitians have. The Western Hemisphere has been enriched by Black and brown people by our blood, sweat, our tears, and the materials in our homeland. So let's just cut it out. Make this right. If you're going to give one person asylum, you need to give it to everybody. If you're going to settle the Afghan people at bases that are empty and have them living in humane and clean and sanitary conditions, you should do that for the Haitians and everybody else at that border. These people are being run out of their homelands because of our mischief in their homelands. Maybe if we get out of folks' homelands and let them mind their own business and get the World Bank and IMF and everybody else out of their stealing, setting up horrific loan conditions, maybe they could get off the dime and build their countries. The only people who can build countries, the only people who've been able to figure it out cannot be the people in the West with all this corruption and foolishness we've got here. We're not the only people who know how to govern. Haiti didn't collapse, it was collapsed. And we need to get out of their business, give them their money back, and give them the opportunity. Not give them the opportunity, they deserve the opportunity to be free and to be sovereign. Just as Americans, we wouldn't tolerate someone occupying us. In fact, that's why we are Americans, because we did not tolerate it. We got them out of here. The British and the Spaniards before them. And sometimes the French. We just were not having it. So we can understand other people wanting to be free. We can understand other people. That's why we're in the United States. That's why we're in America. We're not indigenous to this country. We're here because we were trying to look for something else. Of course, we were trying to conquer people. We can dig in the weeds on that, and that's real. But come on, everybody. You ought to be outraged by how these people are being treated. What if they treated your grandmother who immigrated here that way, or your granddaddy? What if it happened to you? All these wonderful stories of American immigration, yeah, because the doors were open to you. What if they were closed? Think about that. Where would you have gone? Into the sea? Think about that. Think about it. I love everybody. On Sunday, we will be talking about this very topic on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson, who will be returning to the air on Sunday. Thank God. Thank God. So glad that he will be back with us on Sunday. And I hope that you'll join us. Go to WCPT, excuse me, iHeartRadio, at Patriot AM 1150, and just key in Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And we're on many, many stations, and you'll be able to key into one of those and stream us live. And of course, we'll be streaming on the Reverend Jesse Jackson Senior page and on the Santita Jackson page, Santita Jackson and Friends. And we will also be on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. So hope you'll be with us on Sunday. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. And start calling your representatives about what's happening with the Haitian people. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. Call them. And then call your local governments, because we can have sanctuary. Hold on, Dwight. We can have sanctuary cities. You can have sanctuary towns. We can do that. Dwight?
And long live Tucson Overture.
Absolutely. And Dessalines. And that whole group of people who decided that they were going to be free. Haiti is the second republic in this hemisphere behind the United States. We owe them so much. We owe them so much. And they helped us to stay free. Oh, we owe them. And we're not going to be blessed until we do right by them. I tell you that. I'm sounding like my mama now, but it's the truth. As they said in The Color Purple, till you do right by me, everything you touch gonna crumble. Let's get right, everybody. Let's get right. Get right. We got to do right by people. Got to do right. Love you, everybody. Hey, Tennille, love you, love you, love you. Regina, Miss Wanda, sending you. That's right. Tune in on Sunday. Absolutely. We're going to be talking about Haiti on Sunday. Miss Wanda, sending you much, 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 much love. Much, 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 much love. We love her. And Mr. Corey, my mom and daddy's neighbor in D.C. As Anna Johnson Gray, everybody, you can like and share this broadcast with everybody. And so I'm going to get out of here. I love you. Thank you, Dwight. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, CK. Thank you, Cosme. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. Have a wonderful